This video is going to make a lot of people very happy, and others pretty upset, so this should be fun. Hello everyone, Kuro the Artist here. The past couple of videos, I directed viewers to a temporary channel in the Inktank Discord called Break the Breakdowns. The idea was for fans to post any ratings they disagree with in my breakdown series, but I also offered to open up the discussion to any of our videos and give criticism and feedback to things they disagree with, which led to some pretty interesting topics. I requested everyone to keep their statements as brief as they can and avoid too many paragraphs so I can fit as many criticisms as I could in this video, and y'all proceeded to completely ignore that. I did choose some pretty great topics to respond to though. Some made good conversations, some gave me the opportunity to clear some stuff up I've been wanting to say for a while, and some are just fun little anecdotes to keep things fresh. Now I do give out a handful of pretty lengthy responses, so I tried to sprinkle the heavier topics throughout the video, so it's not just one big response after another, and then a ton of short ones. I just think the video will flow better this way. We're gonna start by tackling the questions that relate to our general content, then tackle the breakdown criticisms, and then end with the breakdown criticisms that actually led me to change my ratings. Since nearly every entry was a full-on paragraph, I'm just gonna be reading aloud a summary of their topic for better pacing, but feel free to pause the video and read their full criticisms if you'd like to. At the end of all of this, if you feel like there's still something left that you want me to talk about that I didn't cover in this video, or just want me to elaborate even more on a certain discussion, I'll be doing a live stream tomorrow about this video over on our Twitch channel, which is linked below. The live stream will be Sunday at 2 PM EST and be Twitch exclusive, so make sure to tune in there if you don't want to miss it. Now, let's get started on those general criticisms. I don't like how you ranked this character in your tier list video, so I should clarify these videos aren't based on any true rules. They are built on the premise for Ash and I to have humorous discussions and debates with each other. I wouldn't walk away from that video expecting to have some newfound understanding on how we feel about these characters, because for these specific videos, we focus more on being entertaining than being factually and logically accurate.
I'm playing favorites right now. I like the Jet Ray character.
No, if you made me put fucking Rad in D, she goes in D as well.
It's because Rad deserves D. We have plenty of logic-based videos, so for these tier list ones, we just like to screw around and have fun. Will you do more power scaling videos? It's not impossible, but it's never my focus. I don't really enjoy power scaling as much as a large portion of the fan base does, and to me, too many things come down to interpretation and how subjective a scene can be taken, not to mention how contradictory the series can be with its own self. It's just not where I find my enjoyment with this franchise. Before the Alien X video, I thought I'd never do one again, and I really only did it to celebrate the channel's origins, and because the fans kept asking for one, and apparently continued to do so. It shouldn't be something to look forward to with our content. But again, it's not impossible. But what happened to the old power scaling video? Many of my older videos, that one included, I just don't like the video anymore. I've taken many videos down simply just because I don't like the presentation in the videos. What I don't agree with anymore is the whole, "What's up guys, Kuro the Artist here, and welcome back to another Ben 10 Breakdown. Are y'all ready for me to absolutely dunk on all the haters that don't think Alien X can't slap the shit out of your grandma's tomato garden?"
No.
Yeah, I just find a lot of my older videos a little obnoxious because I was more interested in replicating the traditional YouTuber style of presentation, and it started creating a false perception of who I am as a person to my audience. Not that there's anything really wrong with that presentation, it makes sense for a lot of people's content, and some I even enjoy in that style, but ultimately it's just not for me, and it's kind of a hard habit I keep slipping into. It's actually why I wanted to stop making videos for a while, and I took like that two-year break from YouTube, and then recently I found myself starting to fall into the same trap with my breakdowns. It's like a freaking addiction or something. So I've been trying to reel things back into my actual personality again, because technically, no matter how I present the information will always be the same, right? But it's leading to me getting a lot of comments of people saying I don't like these breakdowns anymore, or I'm suffering some type of burnout. And while I do appreciate the concern, I can promise y'all that's not it. I love doing these breakdowns, and I'm thrilled that it brings the community together. I'm just tired of all of the overacting and whatnot if it's not coming from someplace genuine. Although I'll admit Ash does bring that side out of me naturally.
Are you ready for a fun day of adventure?
I'm ready!
Welcome to Boston! Boston!
Kuro doesn't like Omniverse Ben 10,000 because he's deluded. No, I don't like Ben 10K because I feel like making fusions an intentional gimmick is kind of ridiculous. I've explained before a few times, but I'll try to rush through it again one more time for you. So one of Azimuth's intentions for the Omnitrix was for beings to understand each other and walk a mile in each other's shoes. The Bi-Omnitrix negates that purpose because it makes it all about becoming a cool new creature with mixing powers. Also, there are a lot of times where Ben defends his transformations as being real, and it shows he has a high respect for them as if they were their own beings.
His name's Heat Blast, and he doesn't rap when he talks, and my forearm's Scottish. That doesn't even make sense.
Butt ugly bugs down here.
Who you calling butt ugly? Butt ugly?
She's not real. No more alive than any of your transformations.
My transformations are real, and she's way more human than you are. Feedback was my go-to alien. I don't know why I liked being him so much. He just felt different.
He also seems to be aware that his universal presence as the one being that can represent anyone else is an important matter, and it's not about power, but the fact that anyone can make a difference.
We changed the very nature of space and time.
Just let me out of here. I got 9 other guys who can do it better.
This is also something I double down on in 5YL because to me, that's Ben's most interesting character trait, trying to be the nexus of perspective for all life in the universe. The Bi-Omnitrix negates that too because it makes it more about their powers rather than the species itself. It takes away from that one thing that makes Ben special, which is that he has the power to turn into any other species and use them creatively, and show that anybody can truly be a hero. The Bi-Omnitrix says, nope, it only matters if you have a cool enough power to fuse with Humongosaur or whatever. Granted, the Ultimatrix and Ultimate Ben take away from this too, but the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because fans tend to go, oh, so if you dislike this thing, that means you support this thing. And no, I didn't say that either. I have my own criticisms on Ultimate Ben as well. It's a little exhausting having to constantly do this double backing on my thoughts, but I just know like people are so eager to misinterpret what I have to say. But hey, that's what this Break the Breakdown video is for, so let's keep the clarifications going. It's crazy that Ash still hasn't seen all of Ben 10. Agreed, and I do like to tease him about it, but Ash is a super busy guy, and to call it lazy is pretty insulting no matter how you phrase it. The fact that we live in an age where if you don't take the time to catch up on a TV show, you can be called lazy is kind of absurd. A significant portion of the creative side of the ink tank is fueled by Ash's talents, brilliant ideas, and hard work, and he seems to be getting by just fine without finishing the series. Why does Ash claim that the ultimate aliens need a trade-off? That's just to make the design process more interesting. We all know very well that there is little to no rules when concerning the Ultimatrix, so why not try to mix things up and give yourself a challenge? Can you explain what the Soto Bro effect is again? You know when you're in a car and you can see which direction the car in front of you is going because you can see their blinker? It's like that, but for time travelers, more specifically Chrono Sapiens. In this video, you forgot to mention Ben 23's Nemuina transformation. Very true, but I did include all the ones that I missed in my pinned comments. Pretty frequently on videos, if there's more information to be said or questions to be answered, I do so in a pinned comment, so make sure to check those after watching the videos in case you feel like the video's missing something. Do I need to watch Danny Phantom to read 5YL? Not really, no. Same with Ben 10, I've recapped everything important that you'd need to know about either series in the actual chapters, especially with the recalibrated event going on, so you can enjoy 5YL without seeing Danny Phantom or Ben 10 if you really wanted to. You just probably wouldn't care about them as much, but I'd say it's still understandable enough where you're not missing anything. I don't like how you designed Ben for multiverses. That's fine. To be honest, I barely remember what I said in that video. I made it just to prove a point that it is in fact possible to incorporate Ben Tennyson in a game like this, but truthfully, they can do it any which way and I'd be fine with it. I just want Ben 10 in the game. And by recent posts, it looked like that might be possible, so make sure to continue to use the Ben 10 for Multiverses hashtag on Twitter and post your support for him in their Discord and Reddit. I'll link all of those below, but remember to be respectful. Do you think Bellicus and Serena unlocked Ben's ability to switch forms in Season 2 forward, since the first time we saw him do it was as Alien X? Never thought about that, but that's a pretty solid theory. Ben 10K punched the time bomb out of accepting the inevitability, rather than cockiness. That could be true, but to me, it really doesn't matter why he punched it. When we see an on-screen example on how to reverse the bomb in the very next episode, performed by a hilariously inexperienced Ben, then Ben 10K doing this for whatever reason is silly. Perhaps we should have seen Ben 10K try to do it, fail, and then they say something like, only the Ben from the surviving universe can be the one to undo it because multiverse particles or whatever. Just something that makes more sense than seeing a Ben with decades worth of experience failing to do something that he literally just explained to No Watch Ben, the one thing that allows him to do it. Here's a neat fact: Stinkfly goes about 270,000 kilometers per hour in Merry Christmas, which is just over Mach 217. Hey, that's pretty neat. Thanks for sharing. Four-Arms' pilot footage is shown in the classic series opening. That is correct, and that's something I unfortunately didn't notice until after I made the video. But it's a neat find. It looks like the proof for the lost footage was right under our noses the entire time. So this is just a batch of statements about our 300k special on valid DNA for the Omnitrix. I just want to reiterate we're officially done with that topic because anything beyond the initial video is kind of subjective.
So stop asking us!
But this post right here brings up a topic that I would like to address, and it segues into the encompassing conversation that our fans just take our word way too seriously. In this example, it is said that I present my alien extinction theory too factually, which I disagree on. For one, a lot of people focus on the minor nitpicks I make, like the animation mistakes, but treat it like that's my defining argument, which in the video I state is not the case. It really feels like people in this fandom understand completely not to take any personal theories or headcanons too seriously, except when it comes to us. Like I keep saying, we make it very clear when we're speaking on behalf of the show's canon and on behalf of our own opinions. Yet these two perspectives are commonly lumped together, even by our own community, which leads to some baffling conversations, and when you really look at it, we are not the cause of that. This has been a problem ever since I made my Cervantes lied theory. Somehow word has spread that the ink tank is forcing people to believe that Cervantes lied because it's true or whatever. The fact that people think we're trying to do stuff like this is a bunch of bunk. For example, a few months ago in our Discord, I read that a user claimed I was brainwashing the fanbase into thinking that this girl is definitively Ben's future daughter because that's what I believe, when what I actually said was...
Who's that girl? Did we ever find out who that girl is?
There's apparently like a lost pop-up fact that says this is his sister, Gwendolyn, or Gwen.
His sister?
Yeah, who never speaks and is never acknowledged. And even back in Ben 10,000, you see her in the crowd too. So she's just, and she was, I guess she was conceptualized as just a background character who is somehow the same age 10 years apart. But I swear I saw the fact that this is his sister. Like, I know it's for some reason, there's a reason people believe it, but I don't know why.
That seems pretty important, a sister to not let talk at all, just to say, happy birthday, Kenny!
They don't even look at her. So no, I don't personally believe that that's Ben's daughter, nor do I care if anybody else does either. I sound like a freaking nutcase right now. Another example was saying that we completely made up the fact that Brainstorm has a breathing brace, even though that was indeed his original intention. I've been scrambling to find that screenshot again, but I at least found the one that says he supposedly has gills, and we've seen what happens to aliens that have gills when they don't have life support. But again, we will never ever present information as fact if it didn't have some form of supporting evidence. We really don't give a shit about imposing our views on the fandom, especially if it's our own headcanon. At times, this nonsense became so overwhelming that I stepped away from Discord for a few months, and now I seldom answer questions there, period. Because if I'm gonna put it bluntly, it just really doesn't feel like people are paying that much attention to what we're saying in our videos in the first place. It even happened today while I was editing this very video with Swampfire's black hole. In the actual video, we said it was a stretch and that you can disregard that theory. That's another big problem I have with power scaling, is no matter how much you try to apply real-world logic, it's only as true as the writer's intentions. Like the time Ben genuinely does come across a black hole, yet it still doesn't act 100% indisputably like a normal black hole. Sometimes cartoons just be fucking nuts. Sure, our videos are watched by a large portion of the fandom, but if y'all were in our positions, you'd realize that you can say literally anything and there will always be someone who disagrees. So you might as well just present your argument the best way you can. And if people misinterpret that, that's on them. We can't account for every single possible variation that somebody might take the information that we're saying. So I feel like as long as we're clear that it's our theory, then yeah, we're just gonna chalk it out there. But if there's 4 Bens there,
They can't all be Ben Prime, but me personally, I don't believe any of them are.
So if you feel like we're trying to enforce our theories and headcanons on the fanbase as fact, I think that's just a problem with your own point of view. And if you take a step back and look at what we're actually saying, you'd see that we're really just part of the fandom saying our own theories, just trying to start conversations. And that's really as far as it goes. Now let's move on to the breakdown criticisms. Zascare's world-conquering motivation made sense and is not out of character as you made it seem. This boils down to Ben 10's main problem, which is ideas versus execution. Something can logically make sense, but it still doesn't feel that way when you're watching the episode. Other factors that make a story cohesive that isn't just logic includes tone, pacing, and narrative focus. In Zascare's classic series arc, the narrative constantly switches between Zascare's personal vendetta against Ben and his desire to take over the world, and the arc arbitrarily switches between these two motives, with the former easily overshadowing the other, and at times they feel almost contradictory. The only way this plan makes sense is if you lay all the details out and focus only on those without taking into account the audience's perspective as a view. I still hold to my point that Zascare's overall plan in the classic series doesn't really line up with how they write the character, because they primarily focus on his relationship with Ben and then go, oh yeah, he's also power hungry. But then again, so are 99% of Ben 10's other villains, so it just becomes an ambiguous fog. The Hybrid may have destroyed or disabled Galvan's defenses, rather than them being turned off. That's a pretty decent theory, but then that makes this line,
They have conquered my homeworld, the only planet with the technology to fight them head-on. Without the Galvan, no other race in the galaxy has a chance either.
a little bit more silly, wouldn't you say? Regardless of the reason, if Azimuth is trying to flex that Galvans have the best technological defense against the Hybrid, and without them the universe is doomed, but then get absolutely stomped by them, it comes across as pointless for them to even have these planetary defenses in the first place. Are Kuro's enjoyment category based on his own opinions or the general fanbase? It's more for the general fanbase. While the actual breakdown segments are my own thoughts and opinions and little quirks and facts I like pointing out, I try to keep the ratings based on the overall reactions from the community that I've seen for the past 16 years or so, which means yes, even I disagree with the ratings on some personal level. But that all boils down to perspective. Think of the ratings as like a guideline on what kind of episode you might be getting yourself into and the fanbase's general reaction to it. And of course, it's inevitable that there absolutely will be people whose opinions disagree with the entertainment ratings. But that's just because everybody's different, and why I don't really take criticism in my ratings that are built on the premise of their own opinions as valid. For example, if someone says, you rated insert episode here way too high because I personally didn't like it, well, I'm glad you're expressing your opinion, but that doesn't mean I rated it too high. That just means you disagree. If 1/10 of the fandom feels one way about something, that doesn't change how the other 9/10 of the fandom may feel, and the majority's opinion is how I go about in my entertainment category. You should do the entertainment category based on your own opinion then. I've thought about it, but at this point it's too late to go back now. There was even a time I considered dropping the ratings altogether and just doing the breakdowns, but I also feel like ratings are half the fun. You know, the whole post-episode discussion. It's what separates the breakdowns from being a typical reaction video. I try to treat these videos like they're a source for a topic of discussion rather than just me reacting to what's happening on screen. We're not just doing Alien Force Season 1 The Gauntlet reaction. We're talking about Ben's secret identity and how it folds into the Ben 10 world, which we're also picking apart in the episode, then comparing it to the other episodes. Although, despite my efforts to remain unbiased, people are probably going to see them as biased anyways, so you might as well just take them however you see fit and enjoy the video. I don't like how you rate animation because less important episodes can still have good visuals. Yes, I agree.
A lot of the really good animation seems to be in the most mediocre stories. Maybe they do that on purpose to make up for it, but like a lot of the episodes I feel like had a really solid story and plot. Don't have animation as good as this, but on the flip side, this episode is what you can easily chalk up to filler, and it looks ballin'.
And it doesn't all just come down to action either. Some subtle, more grounded animation can be great based on posing and fluidity, while some allegedly exciting action can be very cheap and dull to look at with lack of physics and pacing. There can also be poor animation when it appears that a character's dialogue doesn't quite match their movements.
Okay, so you guys might have the edge on Ditto. I don't care. I just won't turn into Ditto. How do you like that?
Point is, the animation is based on animation, simple as that. It doesn't quite matter what's being animated as long as it's good, but it also should be noted that animation isn't the only factor in the visuals category. There's character design, understandability, choreography, coloring, and sometimes just is cool shit happening right now? Because if you're not trying to watch the show for some cool shit, why are you even watching Ben 10? Too many Alien Force episodes have a 5 in importance because of the characters, but after season 2, they aren't as important. I disagree. While these characters were initially introduced for the arc that they debuted in, they're still pretty important for the remainder of the series. Alien Force is the first time that Ben 10 can genuinely build a strong supporting cast, and having their proper introduction makes all of their other appearances feel more whole, opposed to Classic, where even returning characters feel pretty isolated in their own stories, and their origins kinda mean nothing. A small problem should have gotten a higher importance. I disagree for the reasons stated in the original video. The Knights were barely the Knights in that episode, and all of their other Classic series appearances never connect with each other, and the gray matter issue was a one-time deal that is never mentioned or elaborated on again. Destroy All Aliens is talked a lot more than Kuro is aware of. I'm also gonna have to disagree. I stay pretty up to date with many areas of the community whether I actually interact with them or not, and this movie is still seldom brought up. Yes, there are still people that talk about it every now and then, but it's like what I said in the video. A slight acknowledgement of this movie every now and then isn't exactly what you might call community relevance. At best, people bring it up every now and then, but nothing major. No discussions, no content, or anything that you can say really impacts the fandom. It really is barely talked about, if at all. And in fact, after that video dropped, there was a surprising amount of comments of people claiming they never even saw it and skipped the film. I figured people watched it and then forgot about it, but some people apparently just didn't even see it. Are you going to break down Heroes United? Yup. Are you going to break down the reboot? I'm doing the films and the specials, but beyond that, I don't know. What about the video games? Actually, yes. I'm planning on playing through all of the Ben 10 video games eventually over on our Twitch, which is linked below. The schedule is pending, so follow and or subscribe down there so you won't miss it. Why is the Omnitrix vital in the hybrid war if the DNA isn't stored in the Omnitrix but on Primus? Well, it's because that's not exactly how it works.
Think of Primus as your computer, and the Omnitrix is like an iPod. After downloading music from your computer to your iPod, you can then disconnect your iPod and continue listening to said music without any type of connection to the computer.
So it's actually stored in both. Granted, sure, Azimuth could probably revive all the species using the DNA on Primus versus using the DNA in the Omnitrix. I'm just exhausted with the misconception that the DNA is only stored in Primus during UAF. Keeping Ben out of the hybrid battle makes sense, because what happens if Ben dies? Can't the hybrid steal the Omnitrix? Well, then Azimuth would do this. Or this.
Omnitrix must find creator.
Or this.
Omnitrix self-destruct in 30 seconds. Destruct sequence completed and engaged.
Or this. Or even this thing.
After I designed the Omnitrix, my first thought was I should probably invent a fail-safe in case some interstellar head case ever gets a hold of one of these things.
Episodes with less importance will lose out on points due to the rating system. Well, yes, that's how it works. If They Lurk Below got a 1 in importance due to Ripjaws, then so should Ready to Rumble for Ditto. Yeah, but Ditto wasn't as impactful in the series as Ripjaws was. And Ditto gets a ton of love later on in Omniverse, where Ripjaws only gets one real, actual scene, and it's pretty underwhelming. Diamond Head should have counted as a mistransformation in The Visitor. I agree, but since we can't technically prove it, I didn't count it. But yeah, I'm assuming that Ben was going for either Upgrade or Accelerate as well. Also, I did forget to count the Save the Last Dance mistransformation as one during my season wrap-up, so yeah, the first 2 seasons of Alien Force had exactly 1 mistransformation each. You forgot the poll for Benighted. Whoops, I'll do that right now. It looks like most people were actually interested in seeing where the plot was going. For me, I feel like I would have been fine either way. There wasn't enough groundwork there to hook me, but maybe if it did continue, it would have been a really good new arc after the hybrid war, and a lot better than the mess that was the Knights vs. Esoterica arc, although admittedly, I have a soft spot for that arc too. It makes sense that the trio have to fight the DNA aliens with all they've got because that's the situation they're in. Yes, I agree, and I've made multiple videos acknowledging that at length. I just wish the characters did too. I don't have a problem with them fighting the DNA aliens the way they do. I have a problem that they found a possible cure and then ignored it for 18 episodes. This is also more of an amalgam of statements, but it appears that the community has a warped understanding on how I feel about about a less serious, more cocky Ben. For one, have you read 5YL? Okay, I can't express this enough, but my problem with Season 3 forward Ben isn't just his attitude. It's the fact that it's straight up contradictory with a lot of his other characterizations. It's the sudden inconsistency that bothers me, not so much the character itself. The reason why I consider these 6 seasons are the peak of Ben 10, and if we were to narrow it down even further, the first 2 seasons of Alien Force, it's because they were the most consistent. The problem isn't serious Ben versus immature Ben. The problem is they both exist as the same character depending on the plot and episode, and it makes it impossible to enjoy him as a whole. Those who love a more fun-loving, impulsive Ben have to sit through what they deem as a boring and bland personality. Those who like a more level-headed and skillful Ben have to deal with what they deem as immature and obnoxious. And it's not fair to treat these tendencies so black and white when judging the different iterations of Ben. I feel like those that prefer a more serious Ben unfairly boil Omniverse down to being an immature goofball, disregarding his bravery, inspiring attitude, moments of maturity, and diverse skill set. Those that prefer Omniverse Ben unfairly boil UAF Ben down to walking cardboard, disregarding his charm, compassion, creativity, and comedic moments. Omniverse and Ultimate Alien Force Ben aren't just their prominent stereotypes. When I say I prefer early Alien Force Ben the most, it is not to say I dislike his other future characteristics. It's because this one feels the most like an actual character. You can watch the first couple of episodes and feel like you really understand him, and the rest of the 2 seasons only build upon and flesh him out. Alien Force Season 3 Ben all the way up to Omniverse, you really never know what you're gonna get. Perhaps we could have gotten the cockier Ben attitude without it being so overdone that it's unappealing, and perhaps we could have gotten a more serious Ben that was still able to have fun with his adventures. The difference is Alien Force Ben was written to be exactly the way he is, and thus feels like a solid character, whereas Alien Force Season 3 Ben, Ultimate Alien Ben, and Omniverse Ben all feel like a mixed bag of ideas that only make sense if you focus on specific details that you like about said iteration and ignore everything else. These inconsistencies can't just be chalked up to being a complex character either, because it's not just about his attitude, because his entire character changes too. His motivations, his priorities, his skill set, his relationships, even his stance on whether or not you should help someone in need, even what he feels is his moral obligation to be a hero. There is a fine line between having a character with multiple layers which makes them respond and act differently depending on their mood and situations, and a character like Ben who is just flat out not the same character from episode to episode. You can never truly define any version of Ben, even classic, because there will always be something that contradicts it, where seasons 1 and 2 of Alien Force Ben is the most consistent of all of them. Now this isn't to say he's so predictable or he only feels one type of way and reacts to certain things in only one manner. That's not what a consistent personality means either. You can take Alien Force Ben as your favorite Ben because you admire this version of him, or you can dislike him and even flat out hate him for the exact same reasons someone might like him, but you can at least be sure that you're talking about the exact same thing as a fleshed out, 3-dimensional, consistent character. Alright, that was one hell of a tangent. Let's go back to the short and sweet answers. And finally, let's finish up with some criticisms that actually made me change my mind about my ratings. Don't Drink the Water should have a higher importance because of the impact it had on the fanbase. You know what? Solid point. While the adolescent aliens isn't brought up as much as some other factors of Ben 10, the de-aged aliens alone did open up a lot of new conversational valleys in the community, just like Dr. Animo's mutant ray about fusions, and the Ultimatrix with, well, ultimate aliens. I'm willing to perk up the importance by 2 points. A change of face should have been more important because that's where we got Gwen's spellbook. Now, this is something I still disagree with, because ultimately it doesn't matter where Gwen got her spellbook, and it's only mentioned that it used to be Charmcasters maybe twice. A lot of classics lore can be accepted in ambiguity because some stuff is genuinely ambiguous. Like, when did Ben unlock Eye Guy? How did Ben know how to disable the master control from behind his back? And how exactly exactly do half of these characters even exist? Even though Gwen's spellbook does have an actual explanation for once, if you didn't know the origin, you could just chalk it up to more of the classic series' ambiguous bubble in the grand scheme of your rewatch. Because across a franchise-wide binge of important episodes, a change of face really seems out of place. However, I'm not unreasonable, and this is a rating I've seen the community vouch for a handful of times. So just for y'all, I'll change it. A change of face will go from a 1 to 3 in importance. Back with a Vengeance should have gotten a 5 for a plot. And I agree. That's one of my favorite episodes ever. And in an effort to remain unbiased, perhaps I was too extreme and went too hard on it. But since a lot of episodes can be more forgiving if they're really built on the legacy of Ben 10, I think Back with a Vengeance deserves that respect.
Since all of these charts have to be updated across the averages, and thus now the ones in the previous videos are inaccurate, I will eventually be uploading a link containing all of the breakdown charts in their most recent form, which will then be linked to all previous and future breakdowns. So be on the lookout for that.
Well, that was pretty productive. If I missed your question, it was either a repeat, too long of a discussion, or I just had nothing to say on the matter. But after this video drops, I will be having that Twitch stream tomorrow, which is April 24th at 2 p.m. EST for more discussion, and clarify things a bit more if I have to, and maybe bring up some stuff I didn't get to talk about here. I'll also be doing some live drawings, so that'll be fun. Do you think this criticism was handled well? Do you wish there was more to certain responses? Don't forget to leave a comment, check out 5YL, and have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, keep it fizzy.